Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we continue our Sexy Vampire Retrospective with the 1995 Vampire Extravaganza, Embrace of the Vampire. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, author of the Alex Van Helsing series from HarperCollins. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth Studios, lead singer of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire, and co-creator of Clockworks from Humanoid. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Los Angeles, we have Adam Fashko, screenwriter for the new Skylanders Superchargers, story consultant for Destiny the Taken King, writer and creative producer for Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Exo Zombies, and lots of other Call of Duty, straight from Activision. Adam Fashko, say hello.
Angela. I'm going to do it like Tony Danza the whole rest of the night in honor of Alyssa
No.
Milano. Thank you.
Yes.
That's disturbing.
It only
is
makes it
awesome.
worse if you think about
Oh my
our
God.
little Alyssa Milano. All right. Well, in fact, before I introduce Julia, I'm going to freeze my screen on the swanky 90s fashions that are playing in my studio right now. All right, in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hola.
Hola. According to Wikipedia, Embrace of the Vampire is a 1995 American vampire film directed by Anne Goursaud, filmed in Faribault, Minnesota. And if I mispronounce that, I apologize. It stars Alyssa Milano as Charlotte, a chaste girl who is haunted by a vampire played by Martin Kemp, who was the bassist of Spandau Ballet, and which is cool. So we have honest to God new wave royalty playing a vampire in this movie, which is kind of exciting. So let's get our opening thoughts. I think. I know you all have feelings that you want to share about this. Joya, ladies first. Let's go Joya, Tony, Adam, and then if I have anything to add or defend, I'll throw something in there. So Joya, about 30, 45 seconds on opening thoughts, Embrace of the Vampire.
Okay, well, it fits the category of a sexy film because Alyssa Milano is very sexy, and it fits the category of a vampire film. And I guess there's a couple of sexy vampires at the beginning, these women. But I gotta say that Martin Kemp is not a sexy vampire. I just found him not at all sexy.
Rain agrees with
anyway.
you, Julia. Wait, I thought this was Sexy Vampires. She watched it last night. There was a storm, and here, a really bad one actually, and she was up, and so I was like, "Well, you want to watch this movie with me?" And then she couldn't stick it out.
No, I'd rather watch Lightning Strike.
I thought that the criteria was sexy. She was also, Alyssa Milano has looked sexier in other things. So she was like, wait, where's the sexy was basically her.
Well, I thought Alyssa Milano was sexy, but in like a sexy schoolgirl kind of way. But anyway, that was my my thing about that. And then no, I mean I don't think I hated it as much as maybe some of you guys are going to say you do, but I definitely had some complaints here and there. How about anyway? I'll let you guys know because you seem more passionate about it than I am, Adam. So
outstanding, Tony, what are your opening thoughts? I think you just gave us a little bit, but lay it on us. Your formed opening thoughts on Embrace of the Vampire.
Not very sexy. The women at the beginning are really hot, in my opinion. It is not a good movie. It is not well paced. The dialogue is pretty terrible most of the time. Whoever directed the actors, not so great either. A lot of the actors are not so good. And exposition theater.
Yes.
It's a movie. The amount of voiceover alone in this movie and just lead vampire staring at the screen telling you things.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Although it does, and all the men, like again, it's supposed to be sexy vampires. All the men are douche canoes. Yes. Everybody. And I've never seen, also, by the way, more vests per capita than any college. I know that it was the 90s and there was this best thing, but holy crap. I don't know if the wardrobe was like, look, we got a shipment of vests. Everybody here just wear vests.
Yeah, it's underwritten by a vest manufacturer.
I don't know if like maybe like I can't remember anything specific. Maybe like everybody looks like they could be in maybe like a Spin Doctors video.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I kept thinking it looked like it looked like a Bonnie Tyler video, but with 90s fashions. But yeah, there's the overalls and yeah.
Fashions look like the MTV of that era.
Yeah.
What MTV of that era videos?
It's the 90210 fashions.
Oh, they are terrible. Good night. Anyway, yeah, this is, and I can't again, Jason. Really? Whatever retrospective it is next time, you're vetoed, man. I'm sorry. This is freaking terrible. I'm taking the reins, man. I'm not saying I can do better, but I think I can after this.
It has been an interesting experiment. All right, Adam, before I try to explain how the hell this movie wound up in our retrospective, although it promises to be every bit as promising as Zombies of Moratau, please tell us, what are your opening thoughts on Embrace of the Vampire?
I'm not sure I can follow that description with anything more, except to say, look, I'm all for sexy vampires. I'm all for the category. I'm all for the long history of said movies. They definitely occupy a place in my heart as well as in the genre. But this is different than what you would typically expect, right? Trashy, sexy vampire, European influenced, whatever. This was such a blatant act of commercialism to capitalize, I believe, on Alyssa Milano coming out of her Angela phase and kind of whatever else that I think it's a film that ironically has no heart, and it doesn't do the genre any justice. I can't even believe I'm saying that. But the fact that it's so empty and it's such a clear and obvious play that it's kind of it's hard to not take it as almost insulting, because you're sitting there going, God, did I just get duped? And in the 90s, this came out in the 90s, right? So this would have been Blockbuster Video or even like HEB Video Rental in Austin at that time.
Sure.
Did they get my $3? I could have got Doll Man, and had a better time at that time, because I think it was you to make a film like this, you had to have at least one star attached. It's got the requisite sort of topless scene or whatever that was probably negotiated, but God, I mean, everybody's right. I mean, it's in a film that should be show don't tell, because of all the skin. There's a lot of telling.
There's a hell of a lot of
telling, and it just you just go, God, it's like covering over plot holes with asphalt. It really it becomes completely unwatchable, and I hate to say that, right? Because you kind of it's got pieces in it that you would at least normally find entertaining in and of themselves, but somehow combined, it's like it's got eggs, it's got milk, it's got flour, it's got sugar, but combined in a cake, which just becomes this giant shit cake that you're going, none of this tastes good together, and it's just not satisfying. It's not good. It's horrible, and I like most movies. This is horrible, mostly because the bad taste in my mouth, I think, is because of the blatant commercialism and it's trading on sexiness as opposed to actually being sexy, and I think it just doesn't deliver, and I find that infuriating. And not that there weren't probably talented people involved, and
sure,
and there wasn't a film got made. It's just not good.
So
heartless, it's soulless.
I should try to figure out. I should try to say how exactly this movie wound up in this retrospective. So I don't disagree with anything that you said. To the extent that I've never actually seen this movie before, but to the extent that I enjoyed this movie, it is truly.
Wait. back up. This is your
Yes.
first time seeing this.
This
You
is my
recommended
first.
this movie. The whole time you'd be like, "Oh, and Alyssa Milano, Embrace the Vampire. We have to do that."
Oh no,
So,
I've seen
you've
I've
never seen this movie.
I've never seen this movie.
Really?
before.
Yeah, I see, and I did.
Every
I
bit of
thought,
me, I'm trying not to just rip the arms off my chair right now. 'Cause time and time again,
and I thought-
throughout, how are we going to pick these things? Sorry, audience. This is necessary. Time and time again. Oh, we have to do this Alyssa Milano thing. Oh, Embrace of the Vampire, as if you had a nostalgia about it. I knew how crap-tastic this movie was. It is crap. It's terrible crap. But I was like, well, Jason obviously enjoys this movie. He's got nostalgia about it. And you haven't seen it? Oh,
wow,
Jason.
that's frightening. And funny,
We're still friends, but
miserable
man,
man.
you are so on
sometimes
notice.
things get better later, not better.
You are so on notice. Like,
Here's the thing.
oh man, I can't. Oh,
I mean, think of what's been in this retrospective, not just in this
I'm
version
thinking
of
about it. And most of the
Yeah.
ones, guess what? This
Well,
is yet another one that you recommended. That was
This is
terrible.
the third Sexy Vampire Retrospective that we've done. So we've done a lot of weird deep cuts. Remember we did like Blood and Roses, we did Daughters of Darkness. We've done a lot of really interesting things. This is one I realized, first of all, we had almost no 1990s material. But for all through like the 2000s and the 90s, I remember seeing still shots from this thing and people I remember people feeling people talking about this
Sick.
sort of the
Yeah,
romantic
until I saw it.
goth thing.
Until
Yeah.
I saw it.
It's fine when you look at
No one who's
stills,
seen this
and it's
movie is
oh,
like,
that's
man,
really kinda...
we should talk about this movie. We should watch this movie and then talk about it. Oh, Jason.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
really,
right.
it's really terrible. I mean, and this is.
No, I totally agree.
Okay, but you guys have actually watched movies that were terrible and made me watch them. So I don't think it's fair to say, hey, he's making us watch a terrible movie that he's never seen. When you guys have seen terrible movies and made me watch.
This is true.
Listen,
Julie, you are totally correct.
Bear in mind
What?
that I've seen it before. I saw it when it came out, and I formed an opinion then. I saw it again, and my opinion hadn't changed. In fact, if anything, it intensified, because then I think I was just disappointed. Now I'm like,
Nevertheless,
oh boy.
let me
I'm
make
sorry. Was Razorblade Smile not taken? Was another terrible movie? But at least
it's a really
owned what it
excellent.
was.
Actually, Razorblade Smile. If we ever do another retrospective, because here's the thing. Let me tell you though the reason
not
why
a good
this movie,
but it owns it. This is what
the movie should be included in the retrospective, and here's why. I believe, honestly, in the pre-Twilight era, before we got into this sort of modern romantic vampire idea where you have basically like superhero vampires without the sense of evilness to them. This kind of
glittering.
Yeah, this film you had you have the sexy vampires. You have the idea of a sexy vampire, and yet the vampire is not a good guy. It's still back in the sort of Vampire the Masquerade concept where the
Which
vampire. Oh wait, Adam.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought you were. I apologize. Okay, don't worry. I'll cut this comment. But anyway, it captures this feel that was in the pre-Twilight era, where lots of movies were playing with this notion of vampires coming in and being seducers. But there would be seducers over to you becoming a vampire and doing all the bad things that come with being a vampire, like killing people and so forth. And that was a moment.
Right, like To Die For, films like that, right?
And then it went away. I mean, that truly, that was a thing that happened for a while and then was gone. I mean, I think that today, that whole shtick, that whole sort of obsessive, let's wear chokers and be cool vampires, that thing is kind of passé today. To the extent that we have bad vampires now, they're usually monstrous bad vampires. So anyway, that was what intrigued me about this. But I agree with you. this movie fails on many, many levels. I think it doesn't give Martin Kemp enough to do, and it gives him too much just nonsense to do. And there's a really key element of the plot, which is that for the listener, this is the plot. Martin Kemp is a vampire lord who apparently has 3 days to live, unless he
What?
can.
Like, why? Wait, why does he have 3 days to live? Where does
Let
that
me
come
finish
from? Why
the sentence.
No, but
Martin
where is
Kemp.
there an expiration date for vampires?
No, you're right. Hold that thought. Because I want to get this sentence out. Martin Kemp is a vampire who apparently has 3 days to live unless he can win the voluntary love of the chaste reincarnation of his great vampire love, which is once again a thing borrowed from Matheson. And that's what the plot's about, is he has discovered her within 3 days of his own expiration date, and he has to win her love. In theory, that is the plot of this movie. It is ridiculous.
Fine. No, but that would be fine if they had ever shown like somebody doing putting a curse on him, because that's what happens with Angel on Buffy, is that he had a curse on him that said, you're going to have a soul, but if you ever experience a moment of bliss, then you lose, you're going to be back to Angelus, or like any of the fairy tales where, love's true love's kiss will break it.
You don't
buy
it out of the gate. You don't buy it out of the gate, and you don't buy it when Martin actually says it.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Oh, by the way, he says it also in 20 minutes of exposition, or at least it feels at least that.
And it starts with him like becoming a vampire when he has a love of his life, but nothing happens to the love of his life on screen. Like, why? Where did she go? Did she die? Did he kill her? Did she live to be old and he just let her live? What happened to that girl? And then why is suddenly now she's reincarnated? That's super annoying to me, that those questions being unanswered.
I didn't even think he was sold it that well that she was reincarnated. It's just that
nothing is sold. Absolutely nothing. There's no lockets.
What would happen though? He's got 3 days. What would have happened if she would have showed up? He would have just been like, well, damn, I guess it's 503 days.
That's it. Here I am in the
Yeah, he'd just be looking for her until he just died. Oh, and then he just dies, like, at the end. I know this is skipping the end, but just dies lamely. Like, there's no cool death. There's no, turning into dust or anything.
Well, by the time you get to that
by the way, he dies lamely because it's a lame movie.
Yeah, and he's lame.
Just so you know, in case you forgot.
But okay, so I think we can go ahead and jump around a little bit. But I want to save some thoughts about that last.
Why? Because there's so many twists and turns in the plot.
Right. But okay,
it's so logical the way it works.
So here's the thing. This is I can't really figure out in the days before Skinamax, what the hell is this? Because this is basically a Skinamax movie, except for it's a very demure one. I mean, there's no full frontal nudity. It's all toplessness, to the extent that there's anything. It's all like, you had way more radical stuff in the 70s than this.
Yeah, I think what it was meant to do, and I haven't looked into it, so I'm just postulating.
Yeah, just riff.
I really do think that it was a deal that was made that would then find a life in late night, Skinamax cable, where it would have, replayability and would be sold, to different territories. And it was meant to be a commodity that would, if it played in the theaters, it would play for a short while, only to say that it did, and then make its money really in video cassette at the time, sales and rental, and then in foreign, whatever the foreign distribution was, and then also late night cable. I mean, I think you're looking at something that was engineered to be a particular thing with a certain number of minutes of skin and a certain level of it, and the story was enough to sort of pull it together. And people in it who are recognized. I don't know for a fact, but my guess is that Martin Kemp was also in it to probably sell, European market. I think this is such a shameless commodity and not a well-crafted one that, it's really hard to see all the different, the full swath of films that we see, and some are really good and some are horrible. But this is so clearly devised to be a particular thing. That
So what offends you most about it?
It doesn't succeed in so many of them. In that way, it's shameless, right? There are some things you look at and you go, wow, they really went crazy with the sex, or they really went crazy with the blood, or they really went crazy with the lore, whatever it is. But this seems to fail kind of across the board, even at sort of really basic cinema as well. It's not really all that interesting. There's a lot of exposition. It's trying to do a bunch of stuff. Make sure we have a certain amount of Alyssa Milano. Make sure we have a certain amount of topless people. Let's make, but it doesn't really hold together as a vehicle, and because of it, I think it just falls flat.
Well, it also sounds to me like you have, or you know what? I'll just go ahead and own it myself. You take a cheap film that is trying something interesting, like maybe a grindhouse film. Well, those are pretty commercial, but like a cheap independent picture, like Zombies of Moratau, which I keep picking on. Somehow, some of those films seem more pure than the kind of straight-up commercialization of a movie like this. By the way, this movie looks really slick. Considering this is a cheap film, it's like $500,000 that they made this for. This is way, way more beautiful than like a lot of the straight-to-video films of the 80s. In other words, in that intervening 10 years, the look of a low-ish budget film being filmed on some university has just changed night and day.
Do you know if it was shot Super 16 and blown up?
No,
I
have
kind of
no
wonder,
idea.
because there was also a trend in the 90s of going Super 16. It was actually cheaper and then blowing to 35.
Would that look slicker than?
Yeah, it was, as opposed to shooting video and then trying to film look it, or shooting 35 millimeter and then having, trying to, make it look right. Super 16 was a thing for a while, and as I was looking at it, I kind of thought, well, maybe it was something like that.
I mean, to a great extent, it looks like an episode of 90210.
What it says on the, I don't know what any of this means. What it says on the IMDb is the camera is Panavision cameras and lenses, aspect ratio 185 to 1. It doesn't say anything about Super 16, negative 35 millimeter.
Okay.
So, I don't know what that, if that has anything
Well,
to do
either
with
they
it.
shot 35, or they shot Super 16 and they blew it up to 35, but I don't know. It did look,
Yeah, but this is negative format.
It did look pretty good. I mean, it was lit. It looked good. It's just the stuff in between the frames didn't really work.
Script. Okay, so we talked a little bit about. We should just talk about some of the characters. So it's funny. This whole concept of Alyssa Milano last week Tony was talking about like what made a Skinemax picture. And one thing that usually makes it is that your heroine in a Skinemax movie is like a kind of a straight edge who takes some assignment or gets mixed up in some business that will require a lot of like hanging out in clubs and getting into all kinds of sexy situations. That was a typical, and that's what's going on here. You've got Alyssa Milano dressed like a Holly Hobby doll half the time, where she's wearing these like denim outfits and stuff, and cavorting around this leafy. It's actually a high school, but it looks like a small liberal arts college, kind of anywhere USA that they've got trees.
Even Rain was like, "Wow, they really do try to make her get super dowdy." Because at one point she wears like a kind of like turban-esque kind of hat, like
but she's not wearing a bra, so I'm like, I don't think she's that wholesome, really.
The movie's confused, honestly, as to what the hell is going on.
She is. Many times they tell you how wholesome she is.
It's so tiresome. I mean, the thing is, in a way, I'm getting confused as to what exactly sleazy is, because Adam brings up a good point, is that this is basically just extremely commercial. Well, the sleazy movies of the 70s in Italy were extremely commercial, but somehow there was just something a little bit more salacious about it all. This in other words, there's a lot of safety here. Even when this girl is "quote unquote" losing control and putting on a purple dress instead of her white one,
well,
smoking
she did
her
wear
clothes.
more lipstick.
Right, and wearing more lipstick, it's still not nearly you don't feel as though you're liable to careen off a cliff quite the way you do with a movie like Blood Splattered Bride or any sort of Italian thing where God only knows what could happen. Because those movies will get freaky. This one, you really do feel like it's going to get freaky, but she's going to wind up okay. Like, did any of you think for a moment that she was going to wind up being a vampire with him?
Sure, absolutely. No, I didn't know which way it was going to go.
I can't tell if that's sarcasm. Is that sarcasm? I can't tell.
No,
From me?
No, I really didn't know if this is going to be a she turns into a vampire at the end or not thing. Because I mean, why wouldn't she? She could.
She wouldn't
go down that.
We should mention
that path.
that Martin Kemp as the vampire. So you've got the good girl, Alyssa Milano. She has a boyfriend who she will not let sleep with her. This, that's all pretty typical. She's got various freshman friends who dress like cast members of 90210. Lots of vests and chokers and like sleeveless tanks and blah blah blah. And sleeveless turtlenecks, and everybody's very concerned over whether Alyssa Milano is going to have sex with anybody, and her dreams are inhabited by Martin Kemp, who, as we mentioned, is the vampire who's out to get her, and he starts actually being her guardian. So when shit happens to her, he shows up to threaten her and so forth.
Threaten other people.
Yeah, But it's weird because most of the times when she encounters him, she is in. All right, please forgive me, but this was confusing to me. She's in a dream state a lot of the times when, right? Like he inhabits. Is that what's going on? He inhabits her dreams, and suddenly they're in like an obsession commercial. There's wind blowing around, and yeah.
That could happen.
Like a Bonnie Tyler video.
Well, and that enables them to do various sexy scenes with Alyssa Milano without her character being a bad girl, so called in the moral world of this.
There's a seduction part, but also it's so not like none of it makes sense. He's like, oh well, I can't love her unless she doesn't love another. She has to love me. But he does all this stuff. like again and again, like
just infuriating.
Brandon and I were looking at it like, wait, well, how is that? Like he's doing things. None of it makes sense. Like
there's so much room for a much funnier movie. This could be so much better and sexier, but so much better. Because if he's a vampire and he's like out to steal her from her regular boyfriend, just think of how hilarious that could be.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too. That is. I don't honestly believe that this is Alyssa Milano's fault because actually, she wasn't a bad actress. I think that if they pulled the money together to make this and they had her and they had the location and they had Martin Kemp or kind of whatever, I think it's a missed opportunity, right? I think if she was gonna be in this vehicle, whatever the reason, it seems like they could have delivered on all the stuff they felt like they had to deliver on to make this movie. But, they could have really just made the rest of it so much better that it actually probably, would have done better then and would still be, you'd look at it now and be like, oh yeah, that was okay. It's just that it was such a wasted opportunity more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think because you're capitalizing on her popularity at the time and transitioning from being a younger actress. I think that, they could have really done something that was like, I'm not going to say that it would be the equivalent of Twilight of the time, but there was an opportunity to come up with something that probably would have been a cut above the other direct-to-video vampire flicks that were out there, or Skinemax flicks, or whatever else.
Well, you've nailed a real problem, Adam, which is that I've looked at a lot of the other vampire flicks of the era that are like Vampire Romance, Vampire the Masquerade kind of stuff, and they all tend to have this weird talkiness. And one thing I'm desperately hoping for, though, is still an alternate to the Twilight vision. Twilight No disrespect to it. I think it does its job, but it's basically a teen romance story,
Yeah.
and it's not. But we need, I have no problem whatsoever with an erotic, pervy vampire degradation story. That sounds like
Right.
something, Poppy Bright wrote those in novels. She did a great job,
No, I
and
remember reading a bunch of those too. Yeah.
there's nothing like that in the movies. This is, yeah, I mean, sadly, this is as good as it gets, which is crazy, that there's somehow these different pieces don't quite come together. Um, well, you know what? Actually, Fright Night 2 comes close. It's
Actually,
it.
actually, that is a surprisingly good movie. Certainly by comparison, there are a lot of aspects
Oh yeah,
that I mean, you could tell they had fun with it too,
absolutely,
and that if you liked the first one, there were definitely elements with it. Looked like they were trying to sort of stand it on its head a little bit and do some different things.
absolutely.
And
And it also
yeah,
took
I think
place
they were
around a college.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
by the
That
way,
probably was the what?
Go
if
ahead,
we're going to
Tony.
talk about this stuff, I did actually catch the 2012 version of Embrace of the Vampire.
Okay, so lay it on us. What's
Oh
the
yeah,
deal
yeah,
with that
great. I
one?
want to hear about this.
Yeah.
So I happened to be home, and so I just put it on because it was on.
I happen to be home and not wearing
Screenbox.
pants.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't follow that. Even if I wasn't. No, I was wearing pants anyway, or at least the first part. No, no. It was on Screenbox as well. I got the trial so I could watch Embrace, and there's a lot of horror movies on there as well. I don't know if more than Shudder, but anyway, it is, I would say, sexier in the fact that there is more sex in it, but it tends to be a lot of the kind of Friday the 13th kind of sex. Like, by the way, we know exactly the movie you kind of wanted. Here it is.
Right.
I think it's a better movie in a lot of ways. It's still really problematic and not great, but it is sexier. I think that all the men in it don't look like douchebags instantly,
Yeah.
and I think Julia would probably think that the lead is way hotter than the lead in the 95 version. They do a lot of gore
I think that's
though,
pretty
which
easy
is
to achieve.
yeah. Well, in this case, I think it's probably really really justified. He looks like a modern dude you'd put in one of these buff,
Sure.
well kept, like he would be on Angel or any of the anything modern as well. But anyway, like there's a lot of gore and a lot of like shock value stuff, which I don't think they needed. It was really weird, like, and lots of the same thing. Like she sees something, like, is it really that? Oh wait, it's not. That's a dream, or she's freaking out, or whatever. And they just keep hammering on that. That part really sucks. But if you were to choose one of the two, definitely 2012, although it is, what Adam's talking about, it doesn't know exactly the movie it wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think attraction level and just it's better at being the movie that it wants to be, even with all the stupid shock value stuff, which I think is like, I don't know. I guess when you've seen enough horror movies, there comes a point where you're like, oh man, you sure shocked me. Look at that blood.
Yeah.
Oh man, somebody's puking blood. That is scary.
Yeah.
Please don't do that again. That's terrible. Oh, worms in a glass. No. Like,
Are you saying we're jaded?
I think probably, but I've seen it done better elsewhere. But if you're gonna watch one of them, at least the 2012 one does its job better. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but it's way
But
better.
it sounds like it's more. It sounds like it's more entertaining. It sounds like it tries harder, and it's possible that it may have been that the audience that it was made for was at least perceived to be different and more. Not demanding, but we've had enough of the tropes that it's like, oh, we're gonna try harder on this one and make it at least
Mm-hmm.
a better movie.
They filmed it also in, like, it looks like a town in Colorado or something. I didn't look up where it was, but there's a lot of like cool scenery and
Interesting.
scenic views, and that's kind of cool. The way they make her chaste and stuff like that is like a little bit more interesting. I mean, I guess they kind of learned from it. I don't know. Overall, it's a better movie, but that's faint praise in the fact that it's not a great movie. But man, oh man, I was surprised because usually it's like remake, especially a remake of a crap movie. I don't know how this is
It always became like Embrace of the Vampire, The Apology. And it was,
sort of. It's very much
the first one was a cautionary tale.
It really does fit in. If you've watched a lot of horror movies, they kind of are more like straight to Netflix or straight to streaming channels.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a lot of these kind of movies. This one's not better or worse than many of them, but still
looking online, Tony,
one.
looking online, it looks like they filmed the new one in and around Quest University in Canada and Vancouver. Now, that is there's some beautiful woods in Vancouver, obviously. That's where the X-Files came to look like the X-Files. And
sure.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, okay, so maybe we should check that out.
Yeah, I mean, at least it can't be worse than this.
Can I just point out one more thing, and then we should go ahead and wrap this up, because I don't think there's any reason to like beat our way through this whole thing. I want to talk about this, and then I want to go to the final scene. But in the there's a scene in this movie when Alyssa Milano is like, I guess, killing time while she mopes around thinking about what's going to happen with her dream boyfriend, and she's sitting on a park bench, and up to the park bench comes the European-ish photographer girl who lives down the hall.
She's not European-ish. She's European for sure.
She's European. I think she might be British, which I don't even know if you would count British as European.
That's Europe.
I think it counts.
Jason, that's Europe.
But it's not attached. So the question is, does a British
and they totally Brexited, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh well, you're right.
But you're totally right. But when I think of like English and Irish, I don't think of that as European. But I guess they are.
Whatever.
Obviously.
She's a sexy photographer chick who has like a revolving door in her dorm room.
Yeah.
She's like probably 30, but she's playing,
This actress is Charlotte Lewis. She is very interesting, and she and she sticks around and she sleeps with a lot of people, and so now she invites. This is in the middle of the movie, okay? She invites Alyssa Milano over to her place to do some boudoir pictures. Oh, let's take a picture. Why don't you loosen up? Hey, why don't you have some wine? Why don't you take off your top? And that scene is all happening.
Have a bra on.
Well, that could happen.
And again, this is like a straight lift. The person doing this movie is like, I guarantee you, they're like, oh, wait a minute. I remember they did this in Emmanuel, or I remember they did this in some random Italian horror film. But it doesn't go anywhere, and then the scene's over, and that's the end of it. It's the most bizarre.
I mean, Rain left not too long after this. She went back to bed. She's like, I'm out of this movie.
Yeah.
So good thing about Embrace of Vampire, if you're woken up because of a storm and you need like the movie equivalent of like warm milk and just
puts you right out. It's like a sleeper hold.
This is the movie you're like, well, I guess I needed something to make me want to go back to bed and sleep.
Yeah, it's literally like, look just how boring a lesbian seduction scene can get.
I
don't agree with that at all. I thought that was a very sexy scene.
Okay.
I did.
Right. Well,
I liked it.
The second one, I think, is sexier. But then she causes her. Then Alyssa Milano is like too bold and causes her to run off. Well, there's also, by the way, an orgy. Also, an unsexy orgy.
Unsexy orgy. I agree with you 100% on that one.
The orgy in Conan the Barbarian was sexy.
It is a weirdly demure orgy. It's an orgy where everybody like keeps their clothes on.
Making out. It's not really. What's an orgy when it's just people kissing?
I guess it's a kissing party. I don't know.
Party. Well, they want it to be an orgy, but like it just
I hear you.
Like we got people. What's weird is there's a note on IMDb because I was looking up some of the people. Because like Jennifer Tilly's in it for partly, although she's actually maybe the vampire in disguise, and they show that like, oh man, he's because he's trying to, again, his whole point is he can't love her, he can't turn her into a vampire if she doesn't love him without his interference.
So he's going to attempt.
He's totally okay with turning into Jennifer Tilly and proving that her boyfriend
will cheat. Right.
Cheat.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this makes sense. Anyway, around that time, also, there's this orgy full of people.
Don't normalize it.
They look comfortable. There's a note in IMDb where it says, like, the director got people who were couples because she was afraid that they would be uncomfortable if they were just random people. You know, you and you make out, and you make out. But the problem is, it still looks that way.
Yeah,
it does.
For the most part.
Because even if you're actually a couple, if you're not used to acting, like, you know, being sexy and on screen, then just because you're with your partner doesn't mean suddenly you're sexy on screen.
Well, this movie proves that.
Yeah.
If you needed the object lesson of, look, you know, just if you needed to show someone exactly that, like, look, just because you're comfortable with each other, and even if you may have great sex, doing it on camera is a different thing. Ta-da! Embrace of the Vampire. Look at these couples.
Yes.
Object lesson.
Yeah. No, indeed. So that's a truly. I mean, think about like the orgy scenes in Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me. Those were great. That was really interesting. He does good things with music, and you know, this is just really
I
true.
do find it like I find it funny that you're like, there's this orgy scene. Fantastic.
Yeah, there's the pantheon of scenes like this. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, we all.
Julie's like, why do you remember that one?
Right. No. That's I'm not alone in loving that movie. Let's see. Okay. So I just want to mention
Caligula.
I have not seen Caligula, and that's one I have not seen that I'm not going to make you guys watch.
Why didn't you put it in the Sexy Vampire Retrospective?
How about Zorro the Gay Blade?
Oh, Zorro the Gay Blade. Such a great movie.
The was different in that movie. Oh, wait, there was no
vampires?
Guy dressed like a teddy bear.
There's no vampires in that one. No, I'm thinking of Love at First Bite. Never mind.
Love at First Bite.
Yeah, that is a totally different movie. Although still George Hamilton.
They do go well together. I see where you were going with that. God, think of how wonderful Love at First Bite was. We had such a good time with it.
I've actually seen those two pictures back to back.
Have you really?
Yeah, awesome.
I really have.
As it should be.
I live to tell the
As
tale.
it should be.
The thing that doesn't hold up well on on Love at First Bite is all the Harlem stuff, all the racial humor is just like so weird and 70s dated. You know, I'm not normally that sensitive, but that stuff just does not hold up at all, and that's a tough one. But you know, as a piece of its time, you can look at it that way.
Oh sure. Well, and it has R.D. Johnson as Renfield, which is terrific.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah. Well, and I Love the Nightlife. You know, if you watch it in its original, I Love the Nightlife was actually included as in the music, and I saw that in the theater. I mean, I saw that in like 1979.
So
anyway,
Richard
Benjamin
direct.
Yeah.
Just watch that movie instead of this one.
That's right. Now we're suddenly having a good time. Why is that? Because we're talking about Love at First Bite.
Oh, man.
All right.
Sorry, Alyssa Milano, if you're listening.
The end of this movie, Alyssa climbs up to the bell tower where Martin Kemp wants to do his final ritual to not die. And he has set up a whole, like a little altar for her to lay on, but it's too small for her.
I wish you could see the look on my face right now, because I'm just like, oh, this scene, it's awful. Like, the fact that her lame boyfriend just kind of happens to follow them, and he doesn't really do anything, and, it's a bad scene.
It doesn't really go anywhere. It's almost as though there's no script here. And I mean, like in this final scene, I have no idea what the hell is going on or why. And, you know, so much has to be done with just sort of hocus pocus with like her, you know, will she end up succumbing to him or will she end up choosing her boyfriend? I gotta say also that even if you don't like Martin Kemp, he is still light years more interesting than her boyfriend.
Oh
I
my God,
mean,
yes.
light years, because he is a bassist in Spandau Ballet, and her boyfriend is like
Well,
I-
the actor is.
just the most boring, just literally. He might be a wonderful person. He might be a great guy. He might be listening right now and saying, "Listen, I'm a very interesting person." I'm saying the character that he plays is just truly just a dweeb, a douche. I mean, he's and
All
you.
the guys in here, and his friend, the long-haired friend with the other vest, is
Oh my.
super douchey too. All of these people look like they're what, like, I wonder what I could put in her drink, and then put in her drink. Like,
Yeah, no kidding.
they all are. Oh, good night.
Yeah,
Terrible.
I agree.
Man, the
So,
worst people.
she ends up at the last minute deciding, you know what, I want to be with Chris, my boyfriend, and not with Martin Kemp, the
And
vampire.
again, with the lameness, she's just like, Chris, as the other guy's trying to like bite her. Oh, and by the way, I think my least favorite thing about this vampire is that he doesn't know how to bite people. Like, he always looks like he's actually a person trying to bite people instead of a vampire. You know, because usually, and I don't know if that's a problem with the special effects, because usually you feel like in vampire movies, like they actually have sunk their teeth into somebody's neck. I've never once thought to myself, except for when it was supposed to be this way, that looks like a person trying to maul somebody's neck. In this case, I definitely thought that. So he's trying to like maul her neck, and then she's going, Chris,
Yeah.
Chris, and he's like, oh damn it, she doesn't love me, she loves Chris. I guess I kept the dino.
I guess I die
like,
now.
I turned into Jennifer Tilly for nothing. Stupid.
Yeah.
It's
Just-
terrible. He's so bad. He's like, now I died. Just kind of like,
It is.
There's no drama even, and then just like black screen. Hey, thanks for joining the 90210 theme
Vampire.
vampire party with lots of exposition. Ta-da!
I gotta say, 90210 Vampire would be a good. I would watch that film, and probably be
You kind
deeply.
of have seen it, but the bad version, like the kind of the director. Like you've seen like the writer's strike version.
Do you think that?
This movie.
Wow, you're right, because Tori Spelling's character would have been, because she was all virginal, she would have been the Charlotte character, right? And the vampire would be a vampire because there's no vampires on that show right now. But like her boyfriend would be little David, which you can totally see Tori Spelling tossing over David, the vampire. Yeah, Brian Austin Green, if I recall.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't. What is Tori Spelling's character called?
Donna.
Donna?
Martin.
Donna. All right, Donna Martin. God bless. I don't know why I even know that. Anyway, so
You don't know that. You just ask me. Why do I know that? Is the question. And the reason I know it is because I watched that show religiously. Because it was awesome.
Yeah.
There you go.
Was Tori Spelling in To Die For? Who was the blonde in To Die For?
To Die For, the crime movie was
No,
not that one.
The vampire movie.
I don't think I know that one. To Die For 1989, you're talking about? Horror. Oh, yeah, there you go, my friend. That is Amanda Weiss is in there and Sydney Walsh. And that's interesting. It is.
That was a rough one, but a better one than this.
All right. Okay. And it had a sequel called Son of Darkness to Die For 2. So, okay. Well, maybe I'll check.
Dude. Still better than Embracing the Vampire.
Still.
Why do you say that? To Die For 2? Just because it's true. Sorry, we decided to put that on the poster. We stand by it.
All right, I have literally nothing else that I can say about this movie, other than I gotta say though that the college in Minnesota where it was shot looks very nice, and
well,
that's
now you've seen it.
yes. Yeah, and I always wonder what that's like, when somebody shows up and goes, "Listen, we're gonna film a sexy vampire movie on your campus. Is that okay?" I mean, I guess, and they go, "Yeah, I guess so. Sure." How much money are we talking about? So, it is actually Chateau.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St. Mary's School. Well, and the bassist from Spandau Ballet. Once again, I think that's going to be my only endorsement is that if you trouble to watch this movie and suffer through it and come up with other things for us to talk about, I also urge you to at least watch maybe the top 2 or 3 videos when you search for Spandau Ballet because it was an awesome band. Okay, so let's go around and get final thoughts and endorsements combined. Because how the hell much more can we say about this? Julia, Embrace of the Vampire.
I do not embrace this vampire.
Yes.
I like I said, I think that which is weird, and I find that like Jason and I both come off sounding extremely gay in these episodes sometimes, and like in my case, I'm like it's strange to say this, but I think I thought Alyssa Milano was sexier than any of you guys did. I thought she was very sexy. I thought she did a great job with it, and I thought that the scene with her and the photographer was actually pretty hot. I didn't think that any of the scenes with her and the guys were very sexy, nor did I think the weird kissing party was sexy. So there was a little bit of sexy, but it was kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. Yeah, but I'm talking about he is by himself, and like he's like doing this weird like thing where he's sticking his butt up in the air and looking at the camera. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I don't even
That's
remember
right. Yeah, we called it the downward facing dog. Right. He seems to be doing vampire yoga. I don't know what the hell that was about.
Or maybe he's like
vampire yoga. You're in trouble when you're doing vampire yoga.
I didn't even know what they were
pay
thinking.
attention to me.
Lord,
that's the thing vampires do, I guess.
Awesome.
He's
okay,
the king of the vampires.
So Julia, what did you have anything to endorse?
Oh yeah, we're doing it all at once this time. Yes, I really liked Hidden Figures. I thought that was such a neat film. It was just that we took our daughters and they left saying it was very inspiring. And I really can't recommend it enough because it's just a beautiful picture about something that I'd never heard about, and I kind of believe it. And then the other one was, I know what we did was we went to see the IMAX film called
Dream Big.
About engineering. Dream Big, yes. Dream Big, and another very inspirational thing about how engineers are basically saving the world, and it was really awesome. So especially if you have kids and you're looking for things to take them to that make them feel like there is hope for the future, and they are it. These are both great films for that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Tony, so final thoughts and then any endorsements you might have.
This is a terrible movie, and other than the hi, Alyssa Milano is trying to break out from her good girl role into literally going from good girl to vamp. Yeah, there's probably better movies for that. Even I don't know. It's awful, and I'm still just like I said before. Jason said introduced this with such nostalgia. I thought surely he had seen this before and wanted to. I feel so duped. And so
I'm
mad.
so sorry. I
betrayed.
really am very sorry because I actually I wanted an excuse to watch this film, but I had not seen it. I apologize.
At the expense of others. Think about what you've done. Take the time this week between podcasts and review your choices and think about what you've done because you subjected everyone, including our audience,
sit in the corner until then.
Yeah. Whatever we review next, it better be good. I'm just telling you that.
I think it's going to be Only Lovers Left Alive, which people
I've heard good
are
things
saying
about
is good.
that. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, as far as endorsements go, I have a few different things. I have both concrete things and more abstract things.
Okay.
First of all, I saw some great bands this week, and trying to get back into things with us recording our album for Rise from Fire and still writing for Deserts of Mars. I think everyone should listen to Freedom Hawk, who are awesome, and Errata, which is RAIRATA, Errata. Great bands. They were great live. It was really cool to see those bands. And then local band Duel, who Jeff, the guitarist of Duel is recording our album, but they're great regardless. So Freedom Hawk, Errata, and Duel, you should really see them. Or check their stuff out. Also, good friends of ours, Void Strider, but I'm not sure how much they have online. But so go out and see some cool bands. I also saw Lego Batman, which is a fantastic Batman movie. It's hilarious. It's really good. I found myself laughing a lot. If you're a Batman fan, it's got just references galore. They just really everything and the kitchen sink as far as references go. It's pretty awesome. And in amongst the going out and seeing live bands, which, part of that was getting to see friends of mine play and meeting new people. I have to say, with events happening recently, like take the time when you can and go see a band or create something or do something, because everything's fairly impermanent and a lot of things are not so great right now. So I am endorsing hanging out with your friends, hugging your loved ones and or friends, whatever, having fun. Go out, see a show, go to a movie with a friend, do something, because that has really been hitting home lately. So be cool to each other and go do something together. And life, a lot of times there's things that seem important, like, I'll see them next time. I have this thing and maybe it's work that you may or may not can get out of, or you know what, I'm going to stay home and do this. There'll be a next time. Well, there may not be a next time. So go out and do that. That's my endorsement, and I need to hold to that this year as well.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. Thank you very much. Adam, final thoughts and endorsements?
Yeah.
I know that's a tough act to follow.
Sorry,
yeah,
that's just what's on my mind. I have
be good to each other. It's kind of like, okay, you got the whole spectrum here. Let me think. How can I be inspiring? Well, if you like this movie, then I have another one. It's a sexy werewolf movie that has the two singers from the band Sparks from the 80s and 90s, and it has Cousin Oliver, who actually was breaking up for being, I have nothing. There's nothing like this movie. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Although what you were describing, I was there.
Man. Again, there's another movie that needs. Like if somebody wants to do, I wish there were posters. I wish my 2D drawing skills were not so rusty, because that is yet another poster. The Sparks Girls plus Cousin Oliver werewolf movie.
could totally work. Angela, and all I can say is not her fault. This is not a good movie, even retrospectively. So I don't know. Just stay away. There's some things should just remain. What was it that Boris Karloff said? Some things should just remain dead. It's just like some things should stay buried. It really is. This is one of those things that this was of a time and of a place, and I don't want to be cruel to it, because it's not. That's not really particularly constructive. And it's mostly. We're kind of fueled by the fact that we're all kind of watching this. But if it told a coherent story. I got to tell you, if this had been a segment on Red Shoe Diaries, it would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It had all the elements that could work in an 11-minute segment that would have been just fine, and it would have been the timing was probably almost about right,
and the voiceover would have worked. You're so
right.
All that would have been just fine, but
20
plus
minutes.
It would have been hosted by David Duchovny, which.
Right,
pretty cool.
and so really, I think this is an example of know your audience, and this would have been the right vehicle for something like this. But the fact that it was, then made into a full-on feature-length movie and then padded out with some stuff, it just doesn't hold up and isn't very good. So I encourage somebody who cares to take and recut this into a Red Shoe Diary wrapper. With basically a lead-in from Duchovny, and then insert all the best parts of this thing. And I think he would find that it would be an awesome fan re-edit.
Yeah.
It'd be an amazing one, whether it's 2 11-minute segments or 1 22-minute segment, doesn't matter. But I think it's there. I think, you squint your eyes. I think it's enough to make it work. And that would, by the way, would have been terrific and probably would have, sold her transition into, certainly not sort of getting her out of the typecast that she'd been in. But as for what it is now, not so great. In fact, it has damaged my capacity to endorse. So I'm going to pass on my endorsement this week.
Although, Adam, you were totally right. I picture this in my head. You have definitely found the way to save this movie. If it was exactly what you're describing, I think there would be semi-fond memories of it. I'm sure
Totally.
There's people who are obsessed with Alyssa Milano who are have really fond memories of this movie. But in general,
oh sure, this would be terrific. I might even do it.
As a Red Shoe Diaries thing, that is perfect. In my head, I wish I envisioned the dimension where that existed.
Right.
Oh yeah, remember that episode? That's the one Alyssa Milano was on, and people are like, oh yeah. And
I endorse that from the slightly parallel dimension where that exists.
That saves this movie, actually. Good on you, Adam.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Adam. And thanks.
But this gets done.
There you go.
Yeah, I hope so. Somebody could make it their senior project. I don't know how
I don't know what grade you would get for that.
In high school?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know where exactly that goes. The school I just envisioned makes about as much sense as the school that Alyssa Milano attends in this movie. Let me just say.
Hey, so I made a fan edit, a Red Shoe Diaries of this terrible movie, so I get an A, right?
So, I already endorsed Spandau Ballet. The only other thing I would say about this is that I still feel like this is not a defense, but I'm feeling exactly the same thing I felt when we watched Mars Needs Women. And we observed that the only purpose for such a film is to look through a sort of, what was the word that Adam used? A snow globe on the era.
Wow. And
this is definitely that. I mean, this is definitely a look at, I guess, it is definitely of a piece, of a place and a time. And I found myself able to enjoy it about that. I wasn't infuriated by it or anything like that. But it was a disappointment. I was hoping that it was going to be something that really sort of captured vampire eroticism for the 90s, and it turns out that if that piece of art exists, this is not it, and we're still looking. So,
by the way, since you said it, let me go on record. I'm not infuriated by this movie. I'm infuriated by you. And the fact I was duped.
All right. Well, outstanding. Okay. I got nothing else. We should we should return next week with a much better film. I've really nevertheless enjoyed watching this less preferable film. And if you, the listener, are listening to this and still listening, come to the Facebook page. Let us know what you think. We will totally engage. And if you feel like we've been unduly harsh on this film, we're totally ready to listen to it. Absolutely. So
I'm joking, of course.
Yes. No.
You should like what you like. I'm just, it is what it is.
And Adam, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, thank you for being on and for spending your very costly evenings with us, and we're so thankful. And have a fantastic week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys. Good night.
Good night.